true.
It's got speed holes in it. Come on.
It's made of chromoly.
Yeah. What? Okay, that's good.
Oh.
See it.
Oh no.
See?
Welcome back, it's day 2, and as you would have seen in the previous episode, we've got the Beams motor pretty much ready to go back in the bay, but we haven't installed the transmission or clutch or flywheel or any of that. So that's where we're gonna start off today. We're gonna get this thing fully dressed up and ready to go back in the engine bay.
And hopefully that's not gonna be the end of day 2 for us,
No, we're gonna get a lot more done in day 2. Maybe we'll even fire this up at the end of the day 2.
Oh, you're crazy.
Let's get really over the top here. Just getting ready to bolt everything up here, and wanted to give you a quick rundown of what came off the old engine and what's going on the new engine. I did run the OE dual mass flywheel on the G1 Beams when we had the car running and driving. You can see there's a little bit of a hot spot there. I'm guessing that's from when we did those burnouts on the skid pad at TMP. This thing is, being dual mass, does a really good job of like dampening NVH through your driveline, but it also weighs a lot. This is 27 pounds. And after talking it over with my buddy Matt Panic from Panic Made, who knows more about these motors than most, he recommended going to a lightweight flywheel. Obviously you save a lot of mass and you gain a lot of throttle response, but oftentimes there's a pretty significant trade-off in NVH. You can get a lot more like rattling through your gearbox without the dual mass setup. However, he assures me that this motor runs smoothly enough that it's really not a big concern on these. So I'm going with you on this one, Matty. I hope you're right. And we are saving 15 pounds. So this thing weighs 12 pounds. Stock one weighs 27.
Well, and you're also leveling up the JDM factor here.
Oh, that's true.
The Toyota Racing, like look,
it's true.
Got speed holes in it. Come on.
It's made of chromoly. I mean, this thing is...
How gangster is that thing?
It is pretty badass. And it takes me back to my Honda days where I spent every penny I earned on Toyota Racing parts. For the clutch, we are staying with what we had on the old motor, and that is a spec Stage 2 Plus. As you can see, it's got different friction material, front and rear. And we've run this. The nice thing about it is, the one side has like higher torque holding capability, where the other side uses more like an OE type material, where it gives you relatively, easy clutch engagement. It's not a clutch that chatters or is difficult to get going from a stop. We've run the 2 Plus in a bunch of cars with really good results, which is why I went with the 2 Plus in this case.
Yeah,
it's really close to here. Well, not that close. The cord
still
wrench here,
there and over here. We didn't realize. Well, every time we did this, it was with the normal pan.
First
now
time with the wide boy pan, yeah. Okay, well let's pull the front sway bar and that'll fix the problem. Damn it. We left enough room to get these in. Well, the first comedic moment of day 2 has begun here with this mounting pedestal on the tail of the transmission. This is the G5, or the latest generation of Beams J160 transmission. Uses a different style metal pedestal here, but it was bolted on here with some like really ghetto looking angle bracket. So there's either missing some OE bracketry here, or someone's used a G5 shifter on a G1 or G3 tail section on here. And since this gearbox has been apart, we can tell from the reseal and the paint job, I'm a little suspicious that something unusual has gone on here.
Well, and the fact that like this is now moved all the way back here, like we're hitting.
Yes.
It doesn't fit through the tunnel now,
yeah, we're right at the back of the
right?
opening, where before it was a good 3 or 4 inches further forward. So we got to take this off and figure out what's going on there. We could always revert to my G1 shifter, which will bolt up to this transmission in the correct position. I don't know if there's any real advantage to this G5 shifter mechanism, or if it's just the internals that are better in the G5. I don't know anymore if this is really a G5 transmission, but let's get this off here and we'll try to sort this out. Bolt and roll pin removed from this little shifter lever receiver cup guy here. They've actually designed it so that it can be flipped around this way and moved forward. And they also have forward bolt positions for the actual shifter mount. So that'll sit like that now, and that gets us up into the hole where we were before.
Now we're back to where we were.
You can see we now have the shifter bolted up in place with the old G1 or G3 style aluminum turret mount, and it's in the right spot. I'm still super confused what this steel one was doing with like these weird, you know, ghetto brackets that someone had made on the side to fit it up to this gearbox. Any of you like G5 aficionados out there, let me know what this is about, because I'm curious. But problem solved, it's in place. I'm sure the shift quality of this will be just fine. So let's now get the tail shaft sort of bolted up on the cross member, get the engine in position, and start tightening down some bolts. Well, progress has been made. We obviously put in the chassis harness and the engine harness, bolted up the header, and bolted in the coil rad. And now we're starting to look at things like coolant hoses. And if you go way, way back, many years to when we first installed this rad, and we did actually the great header build off at Vibrant, they also built out coolant hoses. And they used a aluminum tube that crossed over to this side of the rad, which is where the spout originally was. And I decided I'd prefer aesthetically to move the spout over to this side and just have a simple hose that connects the two here. I think it just kind of cleans up what used to be a big kind of shiny crossover pipe that I didn't love the look of. We also built a hard pipe to connect the lower spout to the radiator, and I've lost it somehow. So we've gone through our stash of hoses looking for like the right shape S. It's both an S bend, but it also has like a clocked bend on the bottom. So we don't have something that fits here. So I'm going to go over to Napa and literally just dumpster dive into all of their rad hoses and see if I can find one that'll fit. While I'm off at Napa doing that, Pete is going to weld a bung onto the upper neck here for a water temp sensor. Since we're putting those Speed Hut gauges in, we want to have we need to have a sending unit somewhere in the system. So we're going to put it right here on the water neck. It's supposed to be in the upper rad hose. I confirmed that with our friends at Panic Made. So off to Napa I go, off to welding Pete goes.
What the heck? All right.
Pete has welded that bung on there, has put the sensor in there, and has inspected it visually for pinholes. So let's hold it. Let's hope it holds water. As for me, I found this Dayco rad hose from Napa, which makes me want to sing Dayco rad hose, daylight coming. Oh, sorry, Dayco coming. Anyway, we're gonna put this down here and
see the moment of truth.
We'll see. Like, I think the general shape of it. Kind of hard to show you with the rad in the hole now, but if you look at it like that, I think we trim a bit off the top and a bit off the bottom, and I think it's going to work.
Should be good. Okay, everybody, take your or place your bets. Is the sticker going to come off the hose here without any residue, or is it going to make a mess here?
It's yellowed. I'm guessing this rad hose has been in stock there for a very long time, so maybe the glue is starting to fail on it. Oh man. So far so good. Oh, yes. Not bad.
Yes.
Oh, there's a spot here that's not cooperating very well.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Oh, I see it.
Oh no.
See?
Oh, maybe I can get it from this angle.
No. You're done. You're done for it.
Darn it.
Don't even try, DP. It's over. It's over.
The Connie needs to be perfect, everybody. We can't have a little bits of gluey white residue on the lower rad hose that you're never going to see again. We can't have that on there, triggering the internet, getting full of comments like this.
You know what triggers me, DP? Why do companies do this?
I know. I guess they do have to put a label on it, but couldn't they use like a glue that doesn't stay on forever?
BMW does the same thing. They put their like stickers on everything, and then you can't get them off, right? We're gonna take a 15-minute tea break here. Get the
goo gun out here, the heat gun. Spend 20 minutes getting this label off here,
and then we'll show you how poorly or well this hose fits.
All right, lower hose in place, and man, look at that! It's like it was made for this combo.
Wow!
We found the perfect rad hose.
That is impressive.
And I don't know the part number because I tore that label off and did such a poor job that I destroyed it in a rage.
I'm sure it's in the video.
Yeah, that's true. Find it in the video if you need to know, but chances are you're not going to have this exact combination because our lower rad neck thermostat housing has been modified as well, so none of this is stock, so you're probably not going to need to know. With the engine in there, we're starting to look at the fuel system, and obviously a fuel system needs a gas tank. This is the factory gas tank, which if you've been watching this series all along, you know I had refinished professionally inside and out. And then we added this, I believe it's a C5 Corvette, fuel pressure regulator and fuel filter all in one. So you can see the fuel comes out of the tank here. The regulator does its thing and sends any excess fuel back into the tank here. And of course we have our feed line that goes to the motor off of this AN fitting here. We had an AN to a push-on that went onto the hard metal fuel lines, but they're 50 years old, and we've decided we're going to go to full AN front to back. So we're just figuring out how to do that now, which is why we want to put the fuel tank in. So it literally just bolts to the back seats, which sounds sketchy, but it was 1977, and I actually kind of like that the fuel tank's up high and far from the back of the car, because in a rear-end collision, the tank's well protected. So maybe it's not such a bad thing after all.
So I've run our Vibrant PTFE lined nylon hose up here, and the advantage of this is twofold. First of all, you can see how much smaller it is than the conventional 6AN braided hose, which is very, very nice, especially in this type of situation where we're gonna try to reuse the factory mounting brackets. The second thing is it is lined with, I guess it's the PTFE lining.
Yeah, that's it.
And that does not permeate like the rubber does. So you don't get, especially with E85, you just don't get a bunch of fuel that will like dissipate through it. You don't get that smell, which is really nice. So if your car's sitting long term, these are certainly the way to go. We had Vin weld this -6AN bung onto the factory fuel fitting here. And the reason was Dave wanted to reuse, you can see the factory fuel damper. So we could have just gone straight into here with a -6 adapter, but we want to keep this fuel damper on here, especially because you're running ITBs. And so this is how it's gonna look. And then now we're gonna mate this line here with one of these. You can see the -6 PTFE fittings will go on like that. And then this will go onto here like that. So nice and sleek. However, this is a 10-foot run of this hose, and I'm really worried that we're just not gonna make it. So let's just jump back inside here and have a look to see if we've got enough hose. Sadly, this is it right here. That's it. We do not have enough hose. This still does need to run over the gas tank and to that feed line. So I think we're gonna have to jump onto Turn 14's website, order up a 20-foot long one, which is crazy because I think we only need like 2 feet, but it is what it is. We don't want to have to splice in another, connection here just to run from there to here. It just doesn't make sense. One line is the way to go, especially with fuel in this situation. So we're gonna have to leave this project for a few days until we get that ordered up and it arrives here.
Well, fellas, it's that time. That's right. It's the end of day 2. It's 6:05 p.m. on Friday. My wife's calling saying, "Where are you? Your parents are here. We're having dinner in 20 minutes." But I'm still feeling beautiful, and I'm feeling pretty good about the amount of progress that we've made in 2 days. And I should preface that by saying it's not really 2 days. We worked like for
It's been a week.
It's been a week, but we worked for like 2 hours yesterday and 6 hours today. So we kind of like are putting it together that way. Our schedule is all chopped up right now because of a multitude of factors. But basically, we've got 2 8-hour days in on the car now. And man, I mean, the motor's in. It's mostly wired up. The plumbing system is basically done. We've got a good head start on the fuel system. Well, we are back at it here today, and the goal is to sort out all the wiring so that we can test fire the motor. We've never fired this motor up before, it being a new motor to this car. So we want to give it a test fire, make sure everything is working as it should, and then we'll move on to like tidying up all the other details. as we get ready to fire Connie up here. The beams, of course, needs to get filled up with the good stuff. And for that, we've gone with the very best, the top performing full synthetic from Valvoline, their new extended protection, which offers 10 times stronger protection against oil breakdown versus industry standards, as well as many other benefits. They've got magical charts on the back here, and we went for the chart where all the squares are filled in, meaning we went for the best because BMZ deserves the best. In the 5W30, which is the factory recommended weight. And obviously we filled the transmission up too. It was basically bone dry because it had been in storage for years. And we put in those FlexFill 75W90. And that is the correct weight for that gearbox. So we should be all set there. All right, inside you can see that Pete tidied up all the wiring. We've got our Link ECU in place. We've got our RacePack SmartWire PDM in place. We've still got this little control touch panel, which you guys will remember from back when we originally did the whole electronics package. Not 100% sure if we're going to keep this or if we're going to revert to the classic controls on the stock and on the dash. So this may go away as we go back to more classic style gauges and controls, or maybe we'll keep it integrated into the dash. That's to be determined, but I think we've got everything else wired up correctly. We are going to have NAM stop by and do a quick sanity check for us to make sure we don't blow up the ECU when we turn the keys. So that's, I think, a wrap on the wiring for now. Also saw we bolted up the exhaust system, and as we mentioned previously, we do plan to change out this muffler for more of a classic style one, and it turns out Vibrant has exactly what we want, a blacked out muffler with a dual tips. So you'll see that get installed in the future, but what we noticed fitting this up is the exhaust hits on the panhard bar here now, and that's because I've moved the axle back quite a bit, which was a snowball effect of the custom fender flares. The profile of them are such that the wheel doesn't look centered in the arch without moving the axle back. But that causes clearance issues like this, as well as a clearance issue that we had here with the shock on the panhard attachment side. It was hitting here. So I've actually done a bunch of work clearancing things that we'll show you in a future episode when we fit up the new NX coilovers. But I think I might have a solution actually for the panhard bar clearance, and that is a drop link setup for the panhard bar from Technotoy Tuning. This guy is designed to bolt onto the panhard bar up top and onto the lower shock mount down below. But as you can see, dimensionally, it's the completely wrong size. And that's because, well, I'm an idiot. And when I ordered these from Technotoy Tuning, I completely didn't consider the fact that we modified this rear axle. So these are excessive manufacturing drop mounts here, as well as the panhard bar location was changed. So the locations changed on both places. So fortunately, I think we can make it fit if we just modify it a bit, basically cut this off and weld up one of these holes so that it's the right size for the bolt. The backside one, we should just have to shorten and it should fit. So we're gonna try that now because that will lower the panhard bar and give us the clearance we need to the exhaust. As you can see with the drop link loosely in place, we now have a ton of clearance to the exhaust system, so that solves that problem. However, we have other problems happening over here because we're not dealing with original A86 mounts here or location for the shock. And that means that the hardware that Technotoy Tuning supplies doesn't fit up. So for example, there's this little extender piece that's supposed to screw onto the end of the stud here, but this is a smaller diameter than the one that is on the excessive manufacturing piece. So that won't fit on there. And the problems just kind of cascade from there. But basically we would have to significantly modify this bracket. It might be better off just to redesign it basically and draw it up in CAD, get a water jet cut, something along those lines, rather than trying to modify this to fit. It could certainly be done. And what this does, by the way, is allow you to reset your roll center. So when you lower a car, it changes the roll center, and lowering this mounting point allows you to put it back to factory roll center if you want. Without a solution on this end, there's really no point in trying to build out a custom solution on that end to make it truly adjustable. So we'll go back to the drawing board on this, think about how we can maybe make this work, because it does solve the exhaust problem, or we modify the exhaust and just use the Technotoy Tuning panhard bar in the stock location, because this will bolt up to the stock location. Well, we were hoping to start this car up by the end of day 3, but it is now almost 6 o'clock. We are out of time for the day, and we are still a ways off from being able to start this thing, because we went down a couple of rabbit holes, which is inevitably going to happen with a car that was taken apart years ago, and we're just trying to remember how everything goes together again, and we're discovering problems. For example, we didn't film any of it, but when Pete was in there installing all the wiring and the PDM and the link ECU, he started looking at the gauges and how there was the speed hut gauges and how they were going to fit in the dash. Turns out one of the speed hut gauges is 4.5 inches in diameter, the other one's 4 inches in diameter. So the rings that my brother 3D printed to fit up were for the 4-inch one, not for the 4.5-inch one. So now we're gonna have to try to modify that print to make a larger one, or order a 4-inch speed hut gauge, but we can't order a 4-inch speed hut gauge because they're back ordered for 5 to 6 weeks. So we spent, I don't know, probably an hour on that at least, maybe more. And then this whole rabbit hole we went down with the rear end, looking at the exhaust system fouling on the panhard bar, and then thinking the drop link was going to fix the problem, only to discover that the drop link's not going to fit because I don't have an E86 stock E86 mounting points for all of where the links mount up. So it was just one of those days where we did not get a whole lot done.
Nothing got done.
We got an oil change done, we got some wiring hooked up, and I vacuumed the car. And that feels like it's about all we got done. I don't know how that happened, but Pete's prediction of 28 days is certainly looking a lot more accurate than my prediction of 15 days after a day like today. But let's hope the next day is more productive. We're actually gonna make a master list and kind of try to get a better feel of all the jobs that need to be done, so we can kind of break them down, group them in a way that makes sense, because in terms of like order of operations, we're kind of struggling about, okay, what should we do next? So we're gonna try to get better organized for the next day and come at it with a fresh new attitude and a list that hopefully helps us stay on target and move forward as quickly as we can.